welcome to House UnCorked. We have Season 2, Episode 1, and it is amazing on just a special amount of people that supported me throughout Season 1. My first podcast, Season 2, Episode 1, is all about the reviewing of the wines that I used and consumed in Season 1. I had a couple of people that said that, hey, listen, why don't you just talk about the wines on each episode? So I got 12 wines that we're going to go through very quickly. And so that if you ever want to go to the liquor store or the beer store or wherever you want to buy your booze from, you'll be able to scroll through on my Instagram and my Facebook, and you can see all the wine choices. So if there's anything that reminds you that, hey, listen, I want to try something new, or give you some ideas of what I could at least bring out to you when you go get a nice bottle of wine, it'll be good. Just so you know that the season for me is 12 episodes. So every week I try to have special guests, or just go solo. It's okay. I mean, I love the fact that I get guests coming on down and the support that they come down and we talk about, they share their stories, great wines. The big feat for me to do this is just to go on the air and do this, tape it, record it, all live, all raw. So I love it. I enjoy it. And that's what all these seasons are going to be about, is just different stories, raw talk, great wine, fantastic music that you're going to see online. So I see Charles Tramer's online here looking good in red. I'm all red today. Red hat from Daniel Morad from Moradness. I got the t-shirt all in red. So hopefully that everyone could hear me out there. Please tell me if you can't hear me, because I do want to make sure that everything is working fine. If not, it'll all be taped. Other than that, let's continue to start, having some fun with this podcast. Season 2, wine and review. I know you can't see all the bottles that we've had throughout the season, but you will on the end of my podcast, and it'll be all with the links, with the LCBO links, where you can buy it, how much it costs, and so forth. So, on episode 1 was my very first podcast on season 1. So the bottle of wine that I did receive from a good friend of mine, Lewis, graciously donated to me a vintage bottle of Sassicaia 2009, which was a phenomenal wine. I didn't open it on my podcast, so because of the fact that I didn't want to just waste it on just one person, so I actually waited to Christmas time, and we had a few people on board, and I cracked it open, and how he said it, he said, label up. This is a good trick to use for you guys are pouring some wine. So label up, tilt it on a 45-degree angle, decanter for 90 minutes, then pour. Oh my God. I mean, I couldn't believe the boldness and the flavor of this wine was delicious. Sassicaia 2009. This wine, I'm going to say the price on it because I'm sure he wouldn't mind, and I certainly am honored to have this wine. This wine is $398 for this bottle of wine. 4.5 out of 5 stars from a lot of wine reviews. It is from Italy, from Tuscany. The wine is a blend of a Cabernet Franc and Cabernet Sauvignon. So this wine is the only single wine estate in Italy to have its own DOCs. Now, the DOCs, I had to look this up, and I'm trying to get more into the whole wine, terminology for the DOC. Basically, is the denomination of controlled origin. So basically, a DOC is a designation of a wine product given by an Italian government to ensure quality and authenticity. So to have this as a very first wine estate winery to have a DOC, that's pretty impressive. And this wine here is absolutely delicious. And if I could get my hands on more of this, I would definitely do it for sure. I want to thank Lewis for this wine because it is just phenomenal wine. And thank you. Lewis. Appreciate it. You will come to my show one day, even though you do not want to. I'm going to reveal who you are. So, okay, episode 2 was all about the relaxation of wine. You know, you have those days that you want to just unwind from a crazy week or dealing with people and want a wine laid back and chill and put some headphones on, sit back. This wine I would recommend, okay? I'm a type of guy that's more into a Cabernet Sauvignon blend of wine, but I do enjoy others. Don't get me wrong. But preferential treatment, I would say be for the Cab Sav for sure. Was the Lewis M. Martini Sonoma County Cabernet Sauvignon. It is in the liquor store. Before that, the Sassicaia 2009. I don't think you can get that vintage in a liquor store. Maybe in a private collector, but I'm going to say that you cannot buy that at the liquor store. You can buy the 2017s, yes. Still paying big bucks for it, but that's a special wine. That's why I featured it on my first show. Carrying on with this, episode 2, Lewis M. Martini, Sonoma County. Cabernet Sauvignon. It's at the liquor store. LCBO, $21.95 in the vintage section. This wine here, I think, for me to unwind from a crazy week, yes. It has a lot of fruity flavors in it with spice and herbs. It just felt very, very, very smooth. It's full-bodied. It could be an extra dry a little bit to my liking, but honestly, if I'm just going to sit back with some headphones and relax, this is the wine I would go for. And it's not that expensive. Other than that, I'm going to move on to episode 3. Now, the first two episodes, I didn't have any guests on. I was debating whether I should have guests or not, but I'm going to have my first guest and a great friend of mine, Nelson Lemos, who's known as a Hunger Pork Chop, and you've saw him before. Spoke to him about his go-to wine, and him being a home chef, wine would definitely go hand in hand while he's working or just chilling out. His choice is a Vida Duro Red. It's a Portuguese. It is a Portuguese wine. Very deep, rich wine, and this wine here, as I mentioned, Nelson brought this over. It's a dry wine. It's from Portugal. 13% alcohol, located in the liquor store. You have to try this wine out. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd love to learn more about wine, honestly, because it is an untapped market for my taste buds. I'm telling you, because I don't know what is good. I mean, I know what is good and what's not good, but to learn more about it and picking the different flavors out and so forth, I would love to try and take some courses on that. So, as I mentioned, Nelson was my first guest, and ironically, my last guest on season 1 finale. We are actually going to be doing more of these live cooking events, and if you saw us on the season finale, that was more of our that was an amazing event, which was out of my studio. So I want to hear what you thought about it. If you liked that episode, I know the sound was a little sketchy, but we got through all the hiccups and so forth. But like I said, episode 3, When Euros collab, the Vida Duro Red, very good Portuguese wine. I'm going to send you all the links afterwards on my podcast afterwards, where you can buy at the liquor store. That goes with amazing foods of the meats like lambs, beefs. That's what I would do, like a nice steak. You have that wine for you. Episode 4, a good friend of mine, Boj, who was my special guest on the episode. It's called Older DJs Are Fine as Aged Wine. So from hip-hop to old school to urban to house, Boj and I had a great conversation about age, our ages, experience, and music. This was my first white wine feature because Boj recommended a white for himself. He actually wanted a Pinot Grigio, so why not? A Pinot Grigio, he said, so a Pinot Grigio I got. The Pinot Grigio by Barefoot, it's sweet, sweet with, but it's dry, like it's a dry sweet. I don't know how you could describe it, but 12% alcohol, but honestly, this wine with peach, lemon, lime flavors, and you can taste the hint of almond in it. It sounds really odd, but it does taste very good. You have that with seafood linguine, like a cheese charcuterie board with some pears in it. That would go very well. So Boj and I had a good time chatting about music and about hip hop and about urban music, and sharing the glass of wine was a great chat. I'm going to have him back on my show again, and I really appreciate him coming on board. That brings us to episode 5. What a wonderful time of year. This past Christmas, spending time with family, enjoying the food, the vibe, the company. I turned to an awesome chap on Instagram, Toronto Vino. Okay, this guy is the bomb when it comes to wine selections and recommendations. I reached out to him, and I'm always looking for new ideas and trying new wines based on their professional opinions. He recommended an El Gringo dark red Tempranillo. He recommended this, and I thought, okay, for $14, this wine came up, and this wine has the aromas and flavors of black cherries, roasted coffee bean, with a hint of milk chocolate. Put that all together, okay? I mean, it is a Spanish wine. It's from Spain. Dry, full-bodied, and very smooth. I think this wine, to me, would be like having it with like a pasta, like a lasagna. This was very smooth, very rich-bodied wine, which I enjoyed. So I'm glad I tried it out. I'm glad Toronto Vino, you got to follow him on Instagram, at Toronto Vino. Follow this guy on Instagram. This guy's got some great posts of all the wines that you can buy, all at LCBO. Episode 6 was a wine day. Red wine, love, and music. That was my vibe for the podcast. Felt like I needed a comforting red wine. Red filled with good thoughts. I'd looked to an awesome cat out of Florida. And I don't know if I pronounced it right or not, but it is in Instagram. It is called Odidus Wine Reviews. He's also a huge wine professional in Florida. Recommended I try a Sterling Napa Valley Cab Sav. And again, you can buy at the liquor store. So my busy weekend from coming back from Ottawa, I am, full of just things in my head because of a busy weekend. And honestly, this rich, seductive Napa Cab always impressed with spicy plum and hints of chocolate. Most of these Cab Savs that are from the Europe, I find that have a lot of the chocolate flavor and fruits. So that being said, this Sterling Napa Valley Cabernet Sauvignon, $37.95, and the vintage section of the LCBO. It's a dry wine, full-bodied and very smooth. And we're going to proceed to episode 7. And episode 7 was called The Old School Guru. Now, this gentleman, who is a full-time DJ, Neil McFarlane, joined me as my special guest in the show. You might have saw the show. And we talked about his business as a full-time DJ. The strengths of branding using social media. It was so interesting to see how his business grew and the powers of branding. And it can be applied to all sorts of business, not to just, a music or a DJ business. It doesn't matter, any business. So unfortunately, he doesn't drink wine, but that didn't stop me at all. So I kept going. So my choice of wine was a Massi Modello Brut Prosecco. It was a dry, bubbly wine that you have with seafood, or again, a nice cheese charcuterie, seafood pasta, or lobster tails or crab. You have that. That was something that I would have with it. A bubbly white. The Massi Modello Brut Prosecco, $18.95, 11.5% alcohol. It wasn't too sweet. It wasn't bad. Light and very fruity. So I'm glad I tried it. If you like to try it out, go right ahead. So thanks to Neil McFarlane for coming out. DJ Ecstasy, big props to you. I admire your business tactics, and you are a hustler with all sorts of crazy ideas, and we talked about all the social media branding, and you have to go and look at my podcast beforehand and listen to it, and you can see and hear about all the ways of branding your business and enjoying it. Enjoying the amount of people, the engagement that comes through. Speaking of which, I'm enjoying this red wine. I haven't talked about it at all. The wine I cracked open for tonight is a Francis Coppola Diamond Collection. It's a Cab Sav. I don't know. I'm more into Cab Savs, at least tonight, anyways. When I'm doing my podcast, depends on what everyone else is having. I'm going to show you the wine afterwards, and we're gonna keep going. As you can see in my window of my studio, is pretty much most of the wine bottles that I've from the show on episode 1. I'm going to take a nice picture of all of them actually and post them all up on the website, which is kind of cool. So that was episode 7. I enjoyed having him on board. He was great. Episode 8, this guy, Life of an F1 Addict. You know, I always thought I knew about Formula 1. Clearly not. My friend and a complete Ferrari, an F1 maniac addict, Alfie Magnus, shared some crazy information that I, a huge car fan, and a race car fan as well, on the technology and the politics of racing and in Formula 1. I never even knew some things that he brought up. I spent an hour with him. I couldn't believe it. I was so intrigued and interested about it that we just talked for an hour. We could talk forever about this. He brought over 2 bottles of wine. Truly blessed to have him on my show as we talked F1 and wine, life around F1. He was an old high school buddy, kept in touch. And the first wine that he brought 2 of them. The first one is the Pelli Island Seco. It's a sparkling white wine. It's an Ontario wine, actually. $11 at the LCBO. This wine, light and fruity. So he brought that over. I enjoyed it. Alfie, thanks. I think we drank that first. And it was delicious. So for an hour, we drank 2 bottles of wine in that hour. The second one that he brought over, it is a red. It's a sparkling red, actually. And it's a Lambrusco sparkling red. Now, we talked about F1 and Formula 1, and from Italy. This wine is from Modena, Italy, the F1 region. Both wines are available both at LCBO. This wine is $10. $10 for the sparkling Lambrusco. Alfie, thank you very much. I can't believe that this podcast went for an hour, buddy. I mean, we talked, I listened and talked, but you came up with things that I never even heard of, and that's what really impressed me. And that's the type of stuff that I want to bring on the podcast, that people care to listen about, intrigued about, and will remember by. So that's what I love about it. And again, Alfie, thanks very much. Episode 9. Don't mess with this Colombian DJ. A friend, a DJ, Juan Jaramillo, was my special podcast guest. We spoke about his life growing up in the classic house environment as a DJ, the vibe, the culture, pretty much. He was full of amazing stories, naming DJs from the past, also talking about up-and-coming DJs, classic house, just all about that genre of house that continues to this day, and just the parties that he has. This guy was a true humble gentleman that enjoyed coming on board, talking about everything from his childhood to his family life to everything. His wine choice, I asked him. He says, Dave, a nice Chilean wine. So you know what? I got him a nice Chilean wine. This wine that I brought over to us was the Cazoletto del Diablo. It's the Devil's Red Collection Red, $16 at the LCBO. This wine is a medium body with dry, fruity, with like blackberries, hint of blackberries and cocoa. Very dry. That wasn't too bad. It was dry, full body, and very smooth. We let it sit for about a half an hour and let it breathe a bit. Super humble guy. We talked about the wine, and it reminded us that, that the taste of this wine, you can drink this all day. I know that we could have drank more than just one bottle that night. And again, you're super humble. You helped a lot of DJs to where they are now. He has his own live mix show on Facebook Live in his studio. And maybe if our schedules align right, I'll broadcast or I'll be a guest on his show. Hint, hint, buddy. So thank you, Juan, for that. The wine, again, is a Casaletto del Diablo. It's a Devil's Red Collection. Episode 10. It is called Quit Blowing Smoke, Jack. I always enjoy learning about new businesses and how they click. My guest on episode 10, who is a huge Duran Duran fan, owns a vape store. Now, everyone talks about vaping and talks about this. And there's mixed feelings about it. I get it, okay? But this guy, again, Sid Pereira, owns Vapors Market. And anyone who is trying to quit smoking, he has a program and products to help the aid of quit smoking cigarettes. We had him as we had an amazing talk about the business, and I asked him his choice of wine, and he preferred a Cab Sav. So a Columbia Crest H3 Cab Sav, beautiful wine, $17.95 at the LCBO. Again, coffee, hints of coffee notes in this, and spice in this wine. They all tend to have this type of spice and it's unbelievable, and the fruitiness to it. So, again, Sid, I appreciate you coming on my show. You have a great program that you can that you're developing for the aid in quitting smoking, and I respect you for that. Thank you for coming on board. This was it was a great experience to figure out, if anybody has any questions. All the links and all the guests on our show, you'll have access to their email addresses, website, and so forth. You can get a hold of them. Talk to them about it. So episode 11 of my season 1, it was called What Am I Doing? This episode I want to keep it simple. That being said, because it's a new decade, I wanted to talk within my heart and my mind, chatting to all about what I'm doing in 2020, new businesses, ventures, my goals, health directions on, about mental health awareness and how we all have some type of concerns, mental health, anxiety, and I appreciate all the comments. And sipping on this bottle of wine, I just wanted to sit back and just close my eyes and just like relax with it. It was very delicious. The wine was recommended. It's actually a Merlot, which I tried out. Not a big fan of Merlot, but a friend of mine, she recommended this wine. And Eve, thank you. I know you're a white wine drinker, as you mentioned, and you very rarely have, you like a certain bottle of red, but you tried it, and you stuck to it, and, so I grabbed it. Listen, this Toro Brava Tempranillo Merlot at the liquor store, don't worry about the price of this wine. This wine is under $10. It's $8 for this bottle of wine. And if you Google this wine, and the Toronto Star did a write-up on it, and they said it was the best tasting red wine for under $10. So I do advise to grab it. They used to be off the shelf, sold out. Just have to find out on the lcbo.com website, and you can find the nearest location. But this wine was, don't be fooled by the price. I mean, this mixture of a dry and fruity blend, which I found to complement each other. You can't just drink one glass, and Eve will understand. You can't drink one. You just got to keep drinking it. That's how delicious it is. Believe it or not, it's just you just keep pouring in your glass. So I enjoyed it. Drank it all in one sitting. I liked it. So Eve, thanks very much for that recommendation, and which leaves to episode 12. Episode 12 was the season finale of my season 1. And again, 12 episodes. I can't believe how fast it motored through, because you know why? Because I had fun doing it. And again, we talked about it. The biggest part of this is just doing it. Like, I'm on camera, I'm on the microphone, I'm on the air, I'm taping it. It's on all sorts of podcast platforms. I thought, shit, I gotta be, people get nervous, but I can't believe how calm I can be and just talking openly about anything. I don't care what I say, and this is all about raw talk, right? So there's more of that. So there's more episodes. We've got great guests. I'm going to talk about the season finale in a second here, but what I wanted to talk about mainly was the fact that I do like learning about wine, the taste of it, what to look for. I love to learn about it. Maybe take courses in it. Maybe go to Niagara on the Lake. I don't know where do you go to get these courses, but I want to learn about it. I seriously love wine, and I love spreading the joy of it, of what it can do. I'm not addicted to it. I just love it. I enjoy it. So, continuing on to season finale. This season finale was called Quick Kitchen Flavors, the final podcast of season 1. I had to act out on what Nelson and I were talking about on my when he came on board, I think on the 3rd episode, saying that we need to do a live show in his kitchen, of a podcast of him cooking. And I said, you know what, let's do it. We did. It was a ton of fun. Okay, getting the gear rigged up, lighting. Listen, it was all a challenge. I'm not a professional at this. It took some time. We made it work. Yes, there was little hiccups here and there with the sound, but all in all, I think it turned out great. Always wanted to record, quick kitchen ideas for fast-moving families. For those who want a quick meal with what they have in their pantry. You don't have to go out and buy this stuff. It could be whatever's in your fridge or your pantry. Whip it up together. This guy has creative ideas. You have to follow him on Instagram. It's called Hungry Pork Chop. He will have his recipes probably on his ebook or on his blog. Genuine guy. This guy is super creative in the kitchen. Great friend, great family. I want to thank Tracy for taking over a kitchen on that night, and thank you. It's always a pleasure. And the wine that I brought over, this wine here is probably my favorite out of the entire episode. Yes, the Sassicaia was amazing, but I can't afford that. I can't spend $400 on a bottle of wine and consume it in like 9 minutes. There's no way. This wine here, the wine choice that I got I brought over to him, was from the Justin Vineyards. It was a 2009 Paso Robles Cabernet Sauvignon. It was a 2009 vintage edition. Mostly sold out in the stores. I don't think you can buy it. I don't think you can buy it in the stores. I think you got to go through a private collector. I'm not too sure. It's a mixture, an unfiltered blend of Cab Sav with a bit of Merlot, believe it or not. Full-bodied, I'm reading it from the sheet here, full-bodied, complex black fruit of lush currants and cherry layered with licorice and vanilla spice with chocolate. Roasted coffee and tobacco. Like, who the hell thinks of this stuff? Who creates this wine? It says, I'm going to throw this stuff, and I'm going to throw this, and I'm going to throw this in there. Like, come on. I can't believe it, but the things that go so well with it are the odd things, like tobacco? Really? So, as my good friend says, when you're pouring this wine, make sure the label is up on a 45-degree angle and pour it into a decanter. I let it sit for about 35 minutes to 40 minutes. Allowed the aromas and the richness to flow right through my taste buds. When he poured it, we had this wine on that night when he was cooking, was phenomenal. I know that when I was looking it up, I can't find it anywhere. I cannot find it. If you can find it, I'm actually going to try to find it for everybody. And maybe what I'll do is I think I even thought about having like a group buy, of my favorite choice of wine, and I'll just put it out there for anybody who wants to buy into it. I would buy like a case or a couple of cases of this wine and just distribute it. I think it'd be a fantastic idea. Let me know what you think about that. I want to get your opinion on that. That'd be kind of cool. I just thought of this right now. That'd be great. Have a little group buy on wine. Why not? The 12 choices of wine that I have enjoying the podcast of season 1 will be on my Instagram post. You'll have pictures with the bottle, so when you're at the liquor store again, you want to try something new, I hope I can provide that recommendation for you. Guys, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. And to the first part of my show, which I talked about the wines, I'd like you to stick around as I pair up this wine that I'm having, the Francis Coppola. I'm going to pair that with some new house music tracks to cap off the evening. So I want you to grab a glass of wine of your choice or beverage, whatever you have. Join me at the DJ booth tonight for a live set. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Next week, I'm sitting down with a new guest, Rob Mancini, who I've also went to high school with back in the day. Won't say the year, but Rob will be my special guest, sharing his story of fine wine, his mobile catering company business, and also his own podcast that we'll talk about. It'll be a fun episode. So we've got more guests, different guests coming up, awesome people that are coming through. Stay tuned on my social media for all the details. And I want to see you next week on House UnCorked, 9:30 Monday nights. And again, stay tuned right after. Go grab your beverage. I'm going to go walk to the DJ booth. You can see my dog back there, Marley. I'm going to go to the DJ booth, and I'm going to spin a live set for you with some new tracks that came out. So, guys, thank you. Peace out. I appreciate the love and support, and we're going to get going on the music. Thank you.
I had someone who really loves me. You fill my soul with so much love. You make my life complete. And so every day my world it smiles. You take my hand, we walk the mile. Thanks to you, it will be done. From me to you, you are the only one. I wanna thank you for all that you've done. You make my life complete. I wanna thank you for loving me. An inspiration is what you are to me. And so I'm thanking you
knock down your door and say that they are taking your land in the name of eminent domain. This is not fair. Resist. When they pit a people against the people and a nation against a nation in the name of world domination, resist. Speak truth to power. Do not comply. Do not believe. Do not accept. Do not be afraid. Do not surrender. Do not judge. Speak truth to power. Do not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Speak truth to power.
Mixing the beats.
DJ Dave live in the